criteria as part of your project. So what's an Eco Charette? Really, an Eco Charette is to gather all the constituency as much as possible from the town and to familiarize and educate them on general sustainable design principle as well as the LEED for School certification. We're going to spend a little bit of time on how your school is going to be involved in terms of obtaining a LEED for School certification. We're going to identify existing sustainable design criteria that's mandated to be in your project. And then we're going to look and develop discuss and develop additional sustainable design goal that you would wish to see in your new school. So once we get over that short project overview, we're going to subdivide the group in 3 groups. And we're going to have focused discussions, work group discussions on specific topics. And I'll go through the rules of those once we get there. And we're really looking forward to get you to voice what you would like to see in your new school, especially those students that are here. So when we get into those work groups, you guys have to speak up about what you want. And then we're going to come all back together, and each group is going to present to the audience what were their discussion about, the priorities and the findings from the discussion. So I'm gonna leave it to Tony Acabino. Tony's gonna give you a quick overview of where the project stands right now. We're just at the beginning of schematic design, we're starting the design of your project.
Thank you, Martine. On the screen behind me is a site plan of the existing school showing the small areas where we're providing additions to the existing school, and also the plans for the renovation and the expansion of the parking into Skilling's Field on the other side of the railroad tracks. A lot of the existing site, in some ways, is going to remain exactly the way it is right now. One of the nice things about this project is that we're retaining a good deal of the embodied energy of the existing structure, but we're going to completely remake this school. We're going to improve its energy efficiency. We're going to improve the way that it works. So a lot of the moves that we make may not look like they're very significant, but they're going to be quite significant by the time we're completed. These are 3 floor plans showing the current thinking about where the departments are going to go. We're not going to get into the specifics of this right now, and there's still several pieces that are moving, but part of our job is also to optimize the performance of the way the classrooms and the departments work together. So we're trying to consolidate as many of the departments in ways that will help the teaching at Winchester High School and to optimize the way that we're using energy on site as well. You'll notice the existing courtyard gets infilled on this first plan on the left with sort of a yellow zone. That is the new dining commons. That will also serve as a public space for the school as you enter in to the building. There will be some new development in the front of the school close to the drop-off drive, which will give the school more of a front door. I'm sure that'll help, thank you. So that's the dining commons. This is the new entry development that's happening here as well. So there's a small addition that gets added here. Another small addition is a large group instruction space that's added between the existing auditorium and the gymnasium building. The 3 main pods of the building are currently planned to be developed as academic space. There's a new cafeteria and servery that will happen in this space. The gymnasium remains where it is on the 2nd floor of the gym building. 3 groups of academic buildings. The new media center will be located primarily on the 2nd floor in the middle, overlooking the dining commons, and then 3 more academic pods located on the 3rd floor. So most of the addition that we're building is the LGI, the infill of the courtyard, and a piece at the front of the building. Departments subject to change as the programming gets completed. These are a couple of views of the potential design changes for the outside of the building. Part of our challenge will be to take what is a fairly inefficient exterior envelope to this building and improve it. Not only bring it up to standard, but surpass standard and create a highly efficient exterior envelope to improve the insulation and increase the potential for a more efficient mechanical system through that use. We're looking at a variety of different materials. These are all subject to change. But the important thing about this is that there will be lots of windows for natural light, and we'll be controlling the type of glazing that we're using to maximize the benefit of having daylight in the classrooms and minimize the heat loss through efficient glazing systems. These are a couple of different views of the potential exterior designs at the entrance to the building. These are subject to change. They're under review right now, but we give you a preview of those just as an indication of the sort of change that we're looking at. And with that, I'll turn it back to Martine for the...
Thank you. So, your town, Winchester, is certified by the state of Massachusetts as a Massachusetts Green Community, which is great. That means that you've adopted the stretch code, and there is a climate action plan in your town that has set up a climate action plan committee that has set up a climate action plan. So in terms of sustainability, you already have done a lot of initiatives. So how does one, this is something that I would like you to keep in the back of your mind when you go into those discussions, how does one considers sustainability? Of course, we have to look at the environmental impact, long-term environmental impact of our decisions. But in terms of it, and then this is a public school, we want to be cost effective. But in terms of doing a green school, we want to also consider the educational benefits that are going to take part of through the educational curricula. There's a lot we're going to do in the new school that could be used to teach the current generation in the school and the next generation about sustainability. In Massachusetts, when you build a new school or you considerably renovate the school, as we will do to your school, you're mandated to certify the school with LEED for schools. So MSBA require, if you want, you can opt out of it, but you won't get any money from the state. So you either go LEED for School certified or LEED for School silver. If you go for silver, you get an additional 2%, which is a lot. It's a six-figure amount in terms of your school. So at this point in time, the building committee has opted to go for LEED silver at the minimum. So this is the scorecard for LEED, and that's pretty much the level to which we're going to talk about LEED today. We're not going to talk about points. We're going to talk about the sustainability criteria that's part of LEED, that's addressed by LEED. But we really want to keep it open. We want to talk about sustainable design and sustainability in terms of ideas and concepts and innovation. As part of the mandated certification by the state, we need to be 20% energy performance better than code. And actually your stretch code is sort of equivalent to that. So that's a basic goal that's going to be achievable. And the state will pay for commissioning of your school. They also require 20% water efficiency. So as part of the LEED certification, these are mandated above and beyond some other prerequisites. So the typical sustainability categories are as follows, and they're very much influenced by the LEED rating system. So sustainable site and water efficiency, energy efficiency, sustainable materials, and I'll talk about each of these a little bit in detail before we start the work group sessions. Sustainable site and water. So what you see here, we've reproduced in boards. And at each of those stations, you have those boards. The blue bulleted to the left are what's currently included in your project. These are criteria that are going to be part of your project. And we may discuss them today, or we may also talk about additional measures you may be interested in talking about. So on the right, we've included additional sustainable design features. Those are not currently in the scope of the project for multiple variable reasons, either budget or site constraints that may keep us from including them in the project.
So we're going to, at this site, we're going to talk about, or at this stage, we're going to talk about site and water. So as part of the sustainable site, it's very important for us to include bicycle storage, to encourage students, whether they be students, administrators, teachers, during the school day, even visitors to use bicycles, have a safe place to store them. Potentially, there have been some discussions about having them undercover. Maximizing or improving the current bike path if we're able to do that as part of the site plan. And then at the same time, during off hours, so non-school hours, if the community is using the school, we want them to be able to use bicycle storage and the path as well. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts along those lines?
There is a plan to have a bike trail. We have that.
We do.
We're working. Is that the part that is the high school construction as part of the high school project or part of the project?
It's part of the bike projects, although we have to coordinate timing with the phase of the work up and all that. But that path comes across the front of the school, goes up along the tracks behind us through the tunnel. So that's being worked into the
Insulation.
hot and cold problems.
And the idea is that we get more insulation, right?
So I'm the only one here at high school, but there are two big things. The rooms don't have their own in-room thermostat, which is a nightmare because it's in the office and they don't know what temperature it is. As a result, their rooms are boiling and rooms are freezing at the same time of the year. So that can definitely be improved. Other than that, acoustics in this room right here. I'm in the orchestra. That is Mr. McCann, the conductor. That is his number one complaint is that the acoustics are terrible in the auditorium, and for an orchestra, that is definitely a major problem.
Excellent comments. That's what I hear.
How about acoustics in the classrooms? Like, are things generally too loud, too quiet? Do you hear too much outdoors, not enough indoors?
There's like
What kind of stuff?
generators that make really loud noises in a lot of the rooms, so it's really hard to hear.
They're electrical generators on?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. if
On
that's
site?
The humanities room could be better placed. It's right next to my history class. We're taking history, and then meanwhile next year they're listening to music and humanities. It's really loud. You can hear it very clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. So, as part of the goals right now, there will be a thermostat in the new classrooms. When we renovate, there will be a thermostat now, and there will be sensors as well. So, if there's nobody in the room, it's going to shut down the air conditioning, so you're going to save energy. But as soon as somebody walks in and there's a group, then it will start again. And it is my understanding, and that's a question we could ask later to the energy group when we present to everybody, that the HVAC system should not be as noisy as I think some of what we're experiencing right now. But that's a question to them.
So maybe put in brackets about the generators, HVAC. That's probably a lot of the noise that is heard is
Potentially, yes.
fans.
It could be that or vibration.
Yes, I'm assuming.
Assuming.
Just a quick point. I just want to make sure sustainability versus durability and the ability to maintain. I think that's important to focus on at the same time because some of the systems.
Lights. So we're taking this opportunity now, particularly with downlights. There's a lot of great LED options for downlights, so we're using a lot more LEDs in those places. But quite honestly, for the main classroom lights, the fluorescents are very efficient in terms of cost per square foot. It's hard to beat those.
It is hard
Our
to beat
Instar
those. It is hard to beat those.
Again, we want to be recording someone recording ideas or questions and things like that.
Yep. So I'm sorry, the young lady back there, and then there were a couple of questions right up here front afterwards.
Is it possible to put solar panels on the roof?
Absolutely. Yes. It is. So you're talking about photovoltaic panels as opposed to solar thermal panels. So photovoltaic, which generate electricity. Yes, it can be done. Tony might be able to answer the question about whether or not it's actually a consideration in the project right now. But one of the things that for any sort of energy upgrade consideration, you want to evaluate the benefit to the project for the life of the building. So Martine mentioned that we typically look at a school project as having a 50-year life. So what does it cost to own the photovoltaic system over the life of the building? Photovoltaics often gets a lot of reimbursement from our friends at NSTAR.
Actually, no. In Massachusetts, that goes through the Clean Energy Center.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're
not
not
so
allowed
much
to do
anymore.
the renewables.
So that's a change. All right.
Technically, we could do solar thermal, but it often doesn't pass that cost-benefit model.
But one of the things that we often do on schools is that we will put, at the very least, put demonstration panels for both PV and solar hot water. And by putting in demonstration panels, those can be tied directly to the science classrooms and can become part of the curriculum. So if that's something that where the curriculum wants to drive that kind of, your studies want to drive that kind of initiative, that's something that can very, very well be part of the project.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm Susan. I'm the Energy Conservation Coordinator for the town, and we do have a commitment that we're going to have a solar-ready roof. Yay! So then we just have to find money to put solar on the roof. And I do want to point out, this gentleman mentioned an important point. There's solar PV that generates electricity, and there's also solar thermal that generates hot water. So I would challenge, we've talked a lot about PV, but I'd like to put the word thermal on the list of things to do. And in terms of sensors, the question I have for you guys is, these guys are in a school now where they're used to having lighting sensors, there's occupancy sensors, if they know it or not, I don't know. But can we get sensors for other things, equipment, if there's a smart board in the room, if there's a projector, if there's, we want to make this building as smart as possible in terms of saving energy. So if there's other technologies that are coming up, can we try to build some of those things in?
So sensors in terms of if nobody's in the room, shut it off?
Yeah, shut it off. At the end of the day, if there's a smart board, how do we know that smart board goes off?
Right.
And similarly, could we put some messaging in the building? Usually the meter, our lovely NSTAR meter, is usually hidden in the boiler room or somewhere really obscure in a locked box. Could we put a big old meter right in the foyer so everybody can see the, the connection between, either the solar panels or the lights being on or the lights not being on, in a really visible way. And also there are demonstration panels as you came in on the left-hand side up above. There are 4 kW on this building that are some demonstration panels. So we want to make sure they move over to the new building too.
One of the things that we've done in other projects is to build what's called a data acquisition system, and it sits in a computer closet typically, and it's typically connected to all of the utilities that are in the schools and can monitor in real time sort of what the energy usage is. And a lot of times we'll connect these to a big flat screen TV in the lobby. So when you walk in the building, you can see exactly what the building is using. So for example, if the building has a PV array on it, you can see on a sunny day what the PV array is generating for the school. You can see as the sun goes down, you actually see the graph go down in real time as the energy generated drops off.
In an area that's not convenient for you. We're trying to encourage people to walk and use their bikes and use electric vehicles or hybrids or whatever they may be.
Since we're also talking about water in this, maybe the water bottle filling stations.
Yep, we will definitely be using filling stations. We have them in the new VO. We talked about that 18 months ago. We thought it was a good idea. It will potentially reduce the number of plastic water bottles that have to be, recycled. That's part of what we're doing, and it'll be clean and chilled. I think the filling stations that we have at VO have replaceable filters, so there's no issues with the quality of the water. And in addition, at VO we actually have some bubblers as well, conventional, old school.
Is it standard to put the standard for the filling station here or like that?
That's a good question. I haven't really put any thought into that, but I mean that's kind of why we're having this discussion. It's a good point. Yes.
So this is a little bit of a stretch on water, but so currently the auto shop has a hydraulic lift.
Yep.
So do you guys know where the technology department is going to be? And if so, will they maintain the same lift or will they get a new one?
I don't know the answer to that. I know there was an email last week about the shop area. I would assume that it's probably going to remain in the same general area, and I would assume as part of the project that there may be a new lift, just based on the age of the one that we have now. I mean, unless it's new. If it's new, I would expect we try to salvage it and reuse it. Okay. Yes.
In terms of the water conservation, I've noticed in middle school at least that most of water fountains and definitely most of the sinks leak all the time and profusely. So while their design is, it seems like there is thought put into it that it will be efficient, like if you touch it to turn it on and then it only goes for a certain time, but then it leaks for the rest of the time. So I think definitely investigate the quality and the estimated lifetime for the units in terms of water fountains and taps in the bathrooms and in kitchens.
Okay, great.
You have like the opposite problem here, like they don't stay on. Like you hit the water, like sinks in the bathroom, and they're on for literally like 2 seconds.
I can speak for that.
And half the water fountains don't work.
Sure.
So,
What
like,
we've been doing in a lot of the schools, they worked out great. There are two different mechanisms to be able to. We'll just talk about faucets for now. We can actually use the light to have solar operated automatic touchless. You put your hand under. I think you've seen them sometimes. Put them under. It stays on for a short 15 seconds. Turns off. You can reactivate it by putting your hand back under. They also have a mechanical mechanism that's powered by the pressure of the water going through. It's like a little gear mechanism that basically recharges the battery internally. They last for 10 years without changing the battery. Both work very well, very reliable. So push down type, we tend to shy away from now. It was good back 10, 15 years ago.
I also know almost all the water fountains in the high school, they taste really bad. They all taste like metallic.
Well, I think the filling stations hopefully will be a big improvement because they're filtered and chilled. Maybe that will encourage people to not use the fountains and actually bring a bottle that you can refilter in the day.
I've also noticed they have like new toilets that you can push either down or up. So like how much water pressure you want, is that going to be?
That's a great point. What we've found is
two-level.
They call them dual flush. The problem is most people don't know how to use them, and they use the one more. So what we've found in studies and in we go with, standard is a 1.6 gallon fish flush. What we've found is if you go with 1.28 gallons per flush, you actually save water over those dual flush units because
It's consistent.
Right. Exactly. So, great question.
One of the things that we did explore at VO, in a men's room you would have a urinal, and they do make waterless urinals. One of the issues that we kind of shied away from that, from a maintenance standpoint. Right, we assumed, we had actually lengthy discussions about it. We can use a unit that doesn't use much water. It eliminates odors, and we felt it was a little bit cleaner to do that. But we did talk about it at length.
In terms of Scott's question for quality water coming out of the water fountains, does that mean it's piping and it's unsafe to drink? Have we tested it? And then the other question I have in terms of stormwater management, how are you guys going to prevent the buildings from getting flooded again?
I'll answer the easy one first. As part of this project, if you were to look at a site map, the existing high school is in the floodplain. The existing high school is outside of the floodplain. The areas where we're proposing small additions would also be out of the floodplain because we're not allowed to build in the floodplain.
And so the windows we're going to install are going to be double glazed, and they're going to have film on them that you actually won't see. Right now, it looks like there were film added, but the new technology now, there's a clear film that basically stops the heat from there and keeps the heat inside in the winter, so you don't lose the heat out in the winter. So those are called hyper manual shades, so that you can bring them up or down. But we're going to have to talk to you guys and the teachers because we want to make sure that when the sun's not there anymore, that the shade is pulled up so that the light can come in, and that we can save money in terms of turning off these daylight sensors. They dim down the light fixtures when there's enough sunlight. And sunlight is actually better for units than artificial light. So the more sunlight you have, you spend your day in the school, you have as much sunlight, as much daylight. Not sunlight, daylight as you can.
My son comes here during the summertime, and some of these kids just reminded me of this. Aside from the fact that he says it looks like a prison, he's concerned when he gets here, what is he going to do? A couple of things that he's mentioned is he likes to see all different types of materials, like on the walls, and he's wondering, he's been places where they've used greenery inside to help with air quality, and also, I know you talk about it in school as a teaching tool. He thinks that in that main area out front, that there should be some type of indoor, like an indoor greenhouse of some sort. An atrium. There you go. And that as a school, you can maintain, you can grow, you can keep. Plus, it would give some, fresh air and oxygen. And then the other question that he has, so he, in the summertime, he comes here and he thinks the school's very stuffy, and he likes to be able to open the windows. The windows are going to be able to be opened on some of the rooms. Is that correct?
All of them.
All the rooms. Okay.
Because when they build this, it wasn't in the code. Now it's a code requirement that there's a portion of the window that is operable. So every classroom will have an operable. That's for sure.
Will the windows be tied to the HVAC system, so the heating and cooling system in any way, so that if windows are open and the heat's on, that there is some control for that?
That's for discussion. That's an option. These systems I've shown you do not always be reliable.
Okay.
So what we find is the most reliable is educating the custodians that go at night, making sure they close the windows. That's been the most successful way of doing it versus the counting sensors.
But you guys can help too. This is one of the areas that having students that understand how to optimize the use of the windows or the use of the thermal controls will actually help save energy in the building. So this is great for you guys to know and understand how to work all of these systems, and you can be involved in how to do this.
Yeah.
Earlier, you said something about like when you walk into a room, you turn on the air conditioning will turn on. But like when in the winter, if I get into my car to go to school, it takes a while for it to actually heat up. So if someone went into a room and then just to get something right now, or was coming in there and if they were freezing right when they got in there and then it turned on.
Great question.
So that's a great question. So let me explain that there's a minimum heating that's going to happen. The way the new systems work is that the facilities manager and when we construct it, we're going to program them, knowing that the students and the teachers may come in earlier on. They're going to start at, let's say, 6:30 a.m. Let's say that's the earliest anybody can come into school. When they unlock the doors, that's going to be programmed so the heat comes on. And then when most of everybody's out of the school at night, it's going to be programmed to turn off. Now, if there's two things. There's a minimal temperature that it's going to be set at, so it won't shut off the whole heating and the whole cooling. It'll keep it to a lower temperature or a higher temperature. Keep it to a minimum temperature. So when you'll get in your classroom, it'll be heated. It won't be totally shut down, but it won't heat it to the higher temperature when people are there.
I try as best I can to walk a line between providing sort of nice features for the systems, the HVAC in particular, that I'm responsible for, but also keeping it simple. Because if, for example, if you look at, in a typical occupied day in a classroom, if we're using an occupancy sensor to, when the room is not occupied, to say, okay, we don't need to maintain 72 degrees anymore, we can maintain 76 or 78, and then people come back into the room and it goes back to 72, for example. That has a certain savings associated with it. If you layer on top of that carbon dioxide sensors, which kind of track the same kind of movement to control how much ventilation is coming in, that's another sensor with more costs associated with it, more operating costs associated with it, that's kind of treading on the same ground in terms of energy savings. So sometimes it helps to pick one and just deal with that rather than having multiple layers of things which are difficult to control and difficult to teach people how it's going to happen.
A question for the gentleman. Plumbing. I think I wanted 20% electrical. Okay, this is a plumbing question. It's supposed to be 20%, I guess, to be LEED certified. At least. Any thought about waterless toilets or any type of efficiency toilets and sinks?
We've considered them in the past. Typically, the problem is getting the maintenance folks to sign on to that. They're a little bit more complicated to take care of in a large institutional setting. Most of the waterless urinals, for example, use an oil medium as the block between the occupied air of the bathroom and the sewer gas that you want to keep in the pipe. But it has to be replaced periodically, so there's an expense to that oil replacement. Cleaning regimen is a little different. You can't just hose it down. You have to use special cleaning agents in order to maintain that oil material. So it's not impossible, but we'll certainly put it on the list.
What fraction of the building is currently supposed to be air conditioned, or both the fraction in which areas would that be?
So what portions of the project are expected to be air conditioned right now? And I think it's still being worked out, but I think it's the majority of the school is considered to be heated, ventilated, and air conditioned, with the exception of the wing that houses the field house and the spaces beneath. Sometimes the field houses will outfit with what we call an event coil. So if you're having graduation drills or something like that, you have the ability to cool them. But so I think it's it's the common areas of the building, the admin area, the media center, the classrooms, auditorium.
Part of this is going to be subject to which department ends up where exactly, but for the most part, all of the spaces in the school right now that are air-conditioned will be air-conditioned in the future. The caveat to that would be just because your classroom right now is in an air-conditioned part, if you move to one of these wings, as Andy said, that's not going to be air-conditioned, it may not be formally air-conditioned in the new wing.
The thought is we're going to potentially, one of the things we've looked at and we like, and there seems to be a lot of positive feedback from the neighbors, is to increase the amount of parking on the Skilling site. Potentially have the parking run along the rail bed on the Skilling side of the site, and then kind of turn and run parallel with Skilling's Road, and then turn back into the existing parking area, so it would almost look like a horseshoe if you stretched it out a little bit. Yeah. If that was to be done, we would have to shift the baseball diamond back away from Skilling's Road a little bit. And I'm sure that if we were to do that, we would obviously address those issues in that area. But I don't think that the plan is to rip up Skilling's field, the entire field, and reconstruct it. It's just, I don't believe that money is in the budget at this point. Yes?
So I'm currently a freshman, so in my senior year, you're going to barely start the construction. One of the things is, I've heard like at the beginning of 2016, you're going to start moving the extra classrooms in to, and so when would you make the extra parking, because that would reduce
The parking would have to be one of the first steps, because if we're to install portable classrooms in between the existing high school and the rail bed, we're obviously going to lose spaces. There have been some discussions and some brief discussions about limiting or eliminating potentially student parking on the site for some time. I know that it might be popular to some and unpopular to others, but just to let you know that we are talking about all those options. And again, if we're displacing or eliminating parking spaces and we need other pieces of this site for staging, for construction equipment and employees, and obviously that will be one of the first things that will have to be addressed.
I know that, as I said before, and other people have said, the number of enrollment of students is increasing. So I think having the plan for the high school be a plan that can be ready for future renovations, whether it be building up, building on. I think having a plan that thinks forward past with the growing population of students.
The phasing of the project is set up so that, as we do one phase of the first phase of the academic wing, then the kids can move in that next year. So we're doing all the academic spaces first, so they can be used as quickly as possible by the students.
One of the challenges that we have with enrollment, it's basically a study, and you look at trends and you look at information, and when we enter into an agreement with the state, we're being reimbursed a portion of this project by the state. We have to agree that one of the first pieces, and the superintendent can comment on this at some point, is we have to agree, we have to come to terms with the state on our projected enrollment.
That's right. I think the comment is an excellent one. And what I'm understanding you to say is that the building's being designed for 1,370 students. Of course, it will take a few more students than that very comfortably. But what the point is, let's be forward thinking and provide some kind of a plan so that if we at some point expect 1,600 students, there's a logical way to be able to add more space.
So it will be similar in theory to what we did at VO. When we constructed VO, we have shell space for 3 additional classrooms. Not finished at this point, but if we had the need to, we could add 3 full classrooms to the school.
Okay, my name is Tom Avises from McCall Middle School. We had about 20 people on our team, and a lot more middle school students, and about 15 had to leave, so we're down to about 5 now. Our topic was energy for the new building, and our first question, we were a little bit off track. We started talking about bike racks with pay locks and cover. So we put it down in our notes, and then we figured we'd be more on task talking about the energy. So we started talking about light fixtures and one of our team members had a question about if you have a light fixture now, what are the future ramifications on update in the future years. Also, we talked about PV-ready roof. We mentioned about the color. It's going to be the color white, which is a lot more effective than obviously black-colored roof. We talked about solar thermal options, hot water, the shading of the roof, how the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, with the shade and the sun angles and all that, keeping it warm in the winter and then cool in the summer. Also, one of us talked about having a big meter in the lobby, so when you walk in the front of the building, you see how efficient the building is. You know, is it an increase and a decrease in which part of the building is more efficient than the other part of the building? So that way the students and the staff could see how well the energy systems are working. Geothermal options, talked about geothermal options. I believe the bedrock's 100 feet below grade, so that might be a little bit difficult because of the distance. We talked about the dust collection system, the ventilation, and us being from the mechanical side with the manufacturing, construction, robotics, we're concerned about the dust collection system, so that will be looked at also. Skylights and natural light, obviously, it's great in the winter and it's going to be not too effective in the summer, it'll be too hot, so they're talking about some shading type of techniques here. Green roofs, we talked about green roofs, adds insulation, you know, you have to maintain it, so the pluses and minuses of that, you know, feasibility studies, we talked about a few times. I already talked about the white or the light colored roofs, how more effective they are than the dark colored roofs. Someone mentioned, I won't say who it was, but it was Ike. Ike said he was talking about bird and animal waste for power generators. So he was thinking about all types of energy, how we could recycle any type of waste and recyclable material. We talked about waterless toilets. You can see them in rest areas and all that. And obviously they do save water, but they do require a lot of maintenance. So we talked about, again, it'd be like a feasibility study. I'm sure they're doing studies to see if that's going to be feasible or not, but it does require a lot of maintenance. A chilled beam, which I'm not too familiar with, but I know it has something to do with convection. I talked to Mrs. McPhee on that, and she mentioned a few other people that are very that's familiar with that we'd like to talk to later on. Displacement vent options, passive strategies on the air, the movement of the air. Again, I mentioned sunshades, south-facing glass, get the most from the sunlight. Again, someone mentioned wildlife sensors. He was talking about having sensors so that when birds come by, they could implement it towards the science classes and all that. Automatic sun controls, and also we mentioned about when you walk into the room, make sure that all the like the whiteboard, the smart boards are off, and all the LCD projectors and all the computers are off automatically if they're left on by mistake. And then we also mentioned, one thing we forgot to write down is we mentioned something about wind power, and there was a study where this building's so low elevation that it would not be it seems not an effective way to collect the wind source. It's down on a valley, obviously, between Stoneham and Arlington. And then the last thing we talked about was the thermodynamic circulations of heating water. And they mentioned about having a natural gas, 95% efficient boiler system that is very efficient opposed to past systems. So that's what we have for energy notes.
Hello, everybody. We were in IEQ, which is indoor environmental quality for the air quality, lighting, and then we're also talking about materials, sustainable materials, and the types of materials that are used in the school in terms of surfacing and construction material, but also over here, an innovation, the innovation piece, the innovation credit that Martine talked about in terms of doing something that's particularly interesting, novel, that can be included in the overall design. So it was interesting because we had a terrific group of students, I think from Mr. McGonigal's class, that's right, or club. We had a great group of students. We asked them what some of their initial interests or concerns were with their existing schools what they'd like to see done. And interestingly, many of them were about comfort, so about energy use, and goes to a lot of the questions that the previous speaker talked about, but concerns about being cold in the summer or hot in the summer. So general issues of comfort were important and mentioned. Controls of heating and air conditioning in their spaces. So these are some of the issues that were talked about before and important to address. And interestingly, a lot of comments and concerns about acoustics, both in the classrooms and that they're either are too loud or distracting. There's often some outside noise from mechanicals, which are coming in and interfering in the classroom. And many comments about acoustics in here. Some of our students were performers. It's very difficult to be heard and to perform well and hear well in this space. And so we talked quite a bit about improving the acoustics, and I think that that's an emphasis, an important area. And also interestingly, durability, and encouraging the designers to think about the durability of materials that are being put in and how to weigh whether they are whether they're beneficial from environmental and indoor air quality perspective, but making sure that they're also durable, that they're not going to add sort of cost to maintenance, and that we need to think about what's going into this building should be well maintained and a plan made to make sure that the staff who's maintaining them are trained and have enough resources to maintain them well. Lots of discussion about potential mold mitigation, and essentially trying to address both past issues of moisture and avoiding future problems of moisture, and we think that can be addressed well, but feel that that's a priority, and also addressing the issues of perceived problems. So, also, we were excited to see that a lot of these concerns are going to be addressed through the base program in the design already, so we're not too concerned. We're going to highlight a few of the things that came up in our discussions, which may be outside some of the current scope. A lot of input on the experience inside the building, and how can students how can the building be a receptive and comfortable place to be? There was talk about getting some plants inside the building, some sort of living structure inside the building, whether it's an atrium that's got greenery that can provide an enhanced sort of air quality, as well as just a sort of a visual space that is comforting and comfortable to be in, and also that went to varying surface materials, so that people sense that they're not in prison, but perhaps they're in an interesting dynamic space. And I think that's a really good point. We also talked a bit about how to benefit from what we're doing in the building as a teaching tool. This living lab approach, we've got this living, breathing building essentially, and how can we bring that into the classroom and or bring kids into the understanding of what's happening to the building. And so we talked about how we really should take advantage of the opportunity being a school is to use the building to teach students, and students inform how we run the building. And there were a few ideas, anywhere from previously mentioned to interpretive displays. When you come into the school, you'll see information about what's happening in terms of energy use. Something that we all raised our eyebrows in interest about was having panels, parts of the either ceiling somewhere or walls exposed with either plexiglass behind it, so you can look in and see the materials, you can see the construction techniques, and really show what's behind the walls. Because a lot of the work that we're going to be done around sustainability is not necessarily going to be seen, and so it'd be great to bring that out into the forefront. There's also a lot of interest in the innovation part. So what can we do differently? What can we do that's actually will be establish some leadership, or that we all can be proud of and visible within the school? And those goes to those innovation credits. And some of that educational work is also there, that educational integration, but also whether we can do something around green roofs or adding renewable energy sources to the building, composting toilets, trying things that are different and that may really be, as I said, something that we can be proud of. And so, whether it's geothermal, but we felt that it's important to have some sort of innovation in what we're doing here. And so, there was mention of what's happening at other schools, and questions about, well, if they're doing this in Lexington, how come we can't do it here? If we're doing it in Wellesley, shouldn't we be doing something a little bit better than what our neighbors are doing to show sort of the Winchester attitude? So that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you.
That our group, a lot of people in our group had the same concerns. So it's really interesting to me how sustainability is really tying all those pieces together. You know, we had 3 separate discussions, but at the end of the day, I think you'll see, and you probably experienced this in the group that you worked in, that we talked about a lot of the same issues that were identified in the other groups.
The first thing we talked about was bike access and bike racks. People wanted the bike racks to be in a visible location for safety and security of the bikes near an entrance, and people wanted covered bike racks for inclement weather. There was a lot of talk about water efficiency within the building and increasing the number of water bottle filling stations, and also choosing sink fixtures and toilets that conserve water. The necessity for improved biking and pedestrian access to the site, and to design bike, car, bus, pedestrian access so that it functions well at peak times. There was a lot of talk about flooding and the issues that I didn't write everything down, but one thing that came up was mold prevention, and we heard that from someone else. The problems with the site and the filled soils, and what provisions can be taken to prevent differential settlement of the soil around the building. We talked about water quality and potential for using bioswales and filtering the water before it goes into the river, especially pavements with vehicular usage. We talked about permeable surfaces and to maximize the green areas and reduce the amount of permeable pavements, and if possible use, reduce the amount of impermeable pavements and use permeable pavements if possible, and a big one, reducing the amount of parking. Water recycling and using, possibly using the water that falls on the rooftop for irrigation or other uses, possibly in the building. This also came up, it was a great idea from a student, is using the sustainable features on the site as educational tools. Another one, continuing the pedestrian walkways around it, through the neighborhoods, through the site. I think that's it.
Thank you. So just to finalize this, I just want to thank everybody and all the kids. I think a lot of kids had to go back home. But please share, for those who are still here, please share our thanks to their participation. That's really important to us, to hear their needs and voices. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to take these notes, we're going to put them in official meeting notes, and they're going to be on record, and we're going to share them with the rest of our design team and the building committee. So your ideas will be brought up. A lot of these, not a lot, but a good amount of these are already included in the project, and others that aren't will substantiate discussions and influence some of the design of the project. I think there's a lot of really good ideas, especially on the educational potential of educational curriculum sort of integration from the sustainable design criteria to the educational programs. And hopefully we can work with the teachers a little bit further on that to sort of fine-tune what we want to do on those. We may have to prioritize on some of those. So with that, I think we're ready for the closing. Brendan, I don't know if you wanted to if you have any comments, but thank you everyone. Your participation was very, very valuable. And thank you for taking the time to come and share your ideas with us.
Thank you. I would just like to reiterate the comments that have already been made and thanking everyone for coming out here today, expressing their concerns, and assuring you that when you have comments or concerns, that we do discuss them. We meet bi-weekly. If you have any further thoughts or concerns or would like to attend any PBC meeting, whether it's related directly to the high school or other projects, please feel free to show up any Wednesday night or every other Wednesday night. It's on the town's website. Look at the calendar. I think that I've been somewhat frustrated in the past by the lack of turnout for our meetings. We've had a bunch of meetings in the past. They've typically been held here, and I think one night we had less than 30 people. We're talking about an awful lot of money. It's a huge investment for the town, and I get frustrated when people say, "Well, I didn't really know. No one told me." These are important meetings, and your participation is key to the project's success. Not only is it the project's success, but again, you can help drive the bus. You can give us thoughts, and they are listened to, and they're all worthy. So, thank you very much. June 19th. Our next public session is, Cindy, here? Here at 7 o'clock on June 19th. So, I would encourage you to let your neighbors know, and I would encourage all of you to show up.